We're going to go over this article just because, well, first, I'm kind of weirded out that I missed it for so long. This is all the way from March 24th. Oil will decide when gold and silver bottom. This week started off with a bang, but I'm not referring to the sound of bomb or rocket strike somewhere in the Middle East, but to President Trump's post that jolted global markets about 2 hours before U.S. cash began trading on Monday. Now, he's talking about the last week of March. So let's go to the last week of March and just see what happened here so we get a context of what it is. Last week of March. Right there. It was the 23rd that he wrote this. So, yeah. Yeah, okay. So Trump makes an announcement. I've got lots of colors up on here, and this is just to show how much money Baron Trump made. So we talked about that. That's over. Okay. So we can see that on the 23rd of March, this is first thing in the morning before the markets opened up in the US, oil drops. And it's because Trump is saying this wonderful thing about Iran. I'm pleased to report that the United States of America and the country of Iran have had over the last 2 days very good and productive conversation regarding a complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East. Based on the tenor and tone of these in-depth, detailed, and constructive, one of the things that we learned from when we were reading Noah's book, how to resist manipulation. He says that one of the first ways you can tell that someone's trying to manipulate you is when they use lots of adjectives.
Oh.
In the complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East, based on the tenor and tone of these in-depth, detailed, and constructive, is just like adjective, adjective, adjective conversations, which, spelt witch, as in burn the witch.
Oh.
Which will continue throughout the week. I have instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants. So, of course, the oil prices drop because now the risk is lower, right?
Right.
Subject to the success of the ongoing meetings and discussions. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump. Now, there's something we have to address here. All of his posts are written in all caps, which in the internet means you're yelling.
Right.
Right. But what does it actually mean?
I don't know. I wouldn't know.
What does it mean when they are spelling out your name? Fiction.
Oh, right. Oh. Go. Would you go back to that first post? The one where the spelling of the witch is wrong?
Oh, yeah. Hang on. I will just go like this, make it a little bit bigger. Right there.
Very interesting.
Yeah. These in-depth, detailed, and constructive conversations, which
Magic.
plenty of commentary out there on the matter already. Some good, some bad, some utterly nonsense. I shared my view on the matter right away on X. It didn't take long for it to be confirmed, and as I'm writing this article several hours later, reports of U.S. attacks on Iran's energy infrastructure are already circulating on social media. I'm sure there will be an official confirmation soon. Again, I apologize for reading this as if it's new. This is a month old. He said Trump is officially panicking because U.S. treasuries and stocks are wobbling. The attacks to Iran power plants already happened earlier today, and Iran is already set to retaliate. So Trump is saying everything's okay, conversation's going great. We got such productive, productive, very good and productive conversations. No. You already attacked the power plants. That's why he has to go all caps, because it's fiction. Fact is that they already attacked the power plants. So the prices should have gone up. He's trying to show he's still in control while he isn't. Iran made it already clear they won't end hostilities until the U.S. has no military bases left in the region. And there won't be any more risk of repeat of another attack in the future. That's their standing. That's their terms. Their terms are simply leave the area and don't attack us anymore, and then we can talk about negotiations.
Makes sense.
Obviously, the negotiations mean nothing.
Well,
if you still have your military bases out here.
Yeah. And Israel, being whom they are, as soon as the announcement is made that Trump has another deal, Israel's bombing everybody.
Yep. As everyone knows, I'm a diehard gold and silver bug. However, that does not mean I have to suffer from tunnel vision and ignore everything else happening in the world, especially when I identify an opportunity to buy even more gold and silver. At the moment, the opportunity isn't big. It's huge, albeit not straightforward. Let's take a close look at the immediate impact of Trump's Monday post. Oil flash crashed, gold and silver spiked, and government bond yields came down, meaning governments were bought by investors. So government bonds, govies, they were bought by investors. So yay! In theory, what happened wasn't meant to happen. What I just described is counterintuitive, since investors rushed to purchase the so-called safe haven assets at the moment there was a perception of de-escalation of the ongoing conflict. I already explained why gold, silver, and government bonds have been moving against any rational logic for the past 3 weeks in my latest podcast. So there's no need today to repeat myself on the matter. The topic I'm very eager to discuss today is when gold and silver are expected to bottom, a question I've received so many times in the past few days. Intuitively, if gold and silver are moving in the opposite direction from oil prices, we should expect a negative correlation coefficient between the two precious metals and oil. As you can see in the chart, here's gold rising and here's silver rising.
It's behind you.
Gold rising, silver rising at the same time, while right after oil bottomed out right here. As you can see, the correlation of coefficient calculated on a weekly basis became negative shortly after the war started, and we know why. But in the last trading session, we already marked a neutral reading. Be careful not to be misled by math here. This coefficient is calculated using the observations over the past week. As a consequence, it is an indicator of trend, not a strict mathematical relationship in the short term. Right. What the trend of this coefficient is signaling us is that gold and silver buyers are now starting to compensate sellers more and more. Premiums. Where are the buyers located? Of course, in Asia. Bullion Star reported queues to buy physical gold and silver in its Singapore shops already on the 20th of March. On the same day, reports from China about strong retail demand to buy gold started to filter into social media. Even Bloomberg, for the first time, acknowledged the record physical silver demand from China, signaling how this trend isn't expected to slow anytime soon due to the strong demand for EVs, solar panels, and high performing electronic goods. China pulls silver from global markets to meet surging demand. Tech needs the metal.
Mhm.
Here's what I warned about on Exxon Monday. When the silver prices spiked, tech companies didn't stop placing orders. They didn't wait for it to go on sale.
Nope.
It's a necessity to them. It doesn't matter what the price is. They're building it. They're buying it.
Mhm.
Here's what I warned about on X on Monday after observing the trend in gold and silver prices at 9:30 a.m. Hong Kong time when Shanghai session, the daily session begins. Before the flow of the Middle East comes online. Asia so far is buying the gold and gold and silver dip art in a few hours. The Middle East liquidity crisis selling should resume, though. I believe gold and silver will bottom once the buying from Asia, especially China, is greater in magnitude. From that moment on, the bull run resumes. Here he's where, yeah, that's what he said there. Not surprisingly,
I didn't quite catch that. What does he mean?
So what he could tell from the early hours of trading, from the early onset, was that Asia was buying the dip. So as the prices were going down, they just bought as much as they possibly could.
Got it.
And he believes that gold and silver will bottom once the buying from Asia, especially China, is greater in magnitude. So as the volume goes up, the price will go down
Mm.
just because they can do that. But that once it's flipped over, he's saying once the buying volume is flipped and it's in greater, so that now it's just going up, then that will be where the bottom ends.
Mm.
So when we look at the charts, we go back to silver on the 23rd of March, right here. Yep, right there. Look at that. There's a bottom. And that bottom hasn't been challenged again. There's this low that we had just on April 29th, a few days ago. 3 days ago, 2 days ago, actually. There's that low there. But that's also, look, I marked it, green line. That's a pivot point. That pivot point might very well be the next higher low,
Mm.
is what he's saying, because that purchasing, Asia purchasing silver, is going up in volume. Now, I don't know since then whether or not that's the case. And that's on me for not really paying nearly as much attention as I usually do. Not surprisingly, the bounce in gold and silver prices faded when morning flow from the Middle East started to hit the tape. Why? Because not only is the situation in the region bad beyond what is still transpiring in the Western mainstream media, but it's even worsening. It's estimated that the current oil supply shortage caused by the war, remember, it's oil supply shortage, not oil shortage. Big difference between the two. It's already 10 million barrels a day. It's expected to soon rise to 12 million barrels a day. In dollar terms, this means that there are roughly $1 billion US of daily cash inflows into the local financial system missing. So they're missing $1 billion a day because of that oil not going onto the market. Think about it. US would benefit from a higher price of oil.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They would benefit from a higher price of oil, and they're choking that back. At the same time, the capital flight from the region continues, caused by both expats and financial institutions bringing their financial assets abroad for safety. We're leaving. The States are not a safe place to hold our money. Those who own hard assets in the region, such as real estate, are already hedging the risk of GCC currencies depegging, especially AED. Don't know which one that. Oh, the Emirates, because of the dinar, because
Right.
of the heavy concentration of this type of investment in Dubai. I don't know which dinar that what that AE is, but that's the dinar. In Dubai, increasing the need for local financial institutions and central banks to liquidate assets for USD to compensate for USD outflows and defend hard currency pegs, as I explained last Friday. Yeah. So, how do I reword this? People who have real estate, knowing that the real estate market's going to go, these are investors who know things. Smart money is saying, nah, you know what? Real estate's a risk right now, and I got to hedge that by because real estate is a very big market in Dubai. They need to liquidate the USD, the risk, and they're looking to they just don't want the risk of the dollar, right? No different than what I've been saying for the last few years. Don't risk holding on to that dollar. It's not the world reserve currency right now. It hasn't been since 2022. It's just been riding on the coattails of its momentum. Additional selling is caused by local sovereign wealth funds already raising their cash holdings ahead of the rebuilding effort that will start once the war ends. Yeah, so rebuilding, there's an investment opportunity there. Why is keeping an eye on the oil price important to gauge when gold? Remember the best place, the best time to buy real estate's when there's blood in the streets. So with oil shortages, why is keeping an eye on the oil price important to gauge when silver, gold are going to bottom? As a matter of fact, for the past 11 trading days, the oil price went nowhere, only briefly crossing $100 and 110 on the Brent. So thanks to the so far successful government-sponsored price manipulation of the oil futures market. At the same time, the drawdown in gold, silver, and global government bonds continued, confirming how the flow is linked to a liquidity crisis with its epicenter in the Middle East financial system. With oil shortages already reported in Australia, Singapore, Vietnam, and European countries of Slovenia, oil prices will be forced to rise as these shortages spread to other countries. I know what I'm saying sounds so familiar to what happened in 2020 when it took over a month for US and European stock markets to realize the gravity of the virus coming from Asia. Don't be surprised if a similar sudden, he puts it in quotes, shock happens again this time, especially when traders are still convinced and positioned accordingly for the war to come in a sudden end and the situation to quickly go back to normal in the blink of an eye as if nothing happened. I already warned about this too, and the incoming shock is going to be worse than the COVID one. That's also in March. And it will be intellectually dishonest for me to stop doing so. All in all, the oil price in the current situation is the perfect barometer of stress in the financial system, even beyond the Middle East. Demand destruction will have a significant impact on companies' revenues across the globe, since everything is pretty much tied directly or indirectly to the oil price. So if the oil prices go up, it will decrease the demand of other, downstream products and services, because it's just going to get too expensive. People are going to be like, I don't want to go buy. I'm not going to go buy it. So demand drops out of nowhere, goes to nowhere. Because of the missing revenues and higher uncertainty, companies' investors will surely increase their cash buffers, adding pressure to those that are easiest to liquidate with a limited impact on the spot price like gold, silver, and government bonds. However, investors cannot liquidate all their safest assets and remain exposed to stocks set to lose a significant amount of value due to missing revenues as a consequence for the disruptions to the global economy spreading for the Middle East. They're making their own matters worse. They are compounding the problem, and of course, deliberately. They have to reset this thing. They have to make the people want the reset. They have to make the people want digital currencies. If they don't do that, they're not going to get the consent. They're going to have too many uprisings, and that's just a hassle. Stocks are already suffering, but not as much compared to gold, silver, and government bonds yet. Expect this to change suddenly, similar to what happened. Oh, so remember, we're back a ways, right? Let's go and look at the US 30. At the end of March, things were suffering, right? It had been down for that time. We've recovered since then almost. Expect this to change suddenly, similar to what happened ahead of any severe financial crisis the world has experienced over the past decades. This is when, contrary to the idiotic narrative spread right now, central banks will step in, cutting rates and resuming hardcore quantitative easing. Which is like the quantitative easing, that is the fancy word for today's, that's the fancy word they use nowadays for print themselves to oblivion. Gold and silver are signaling a liquidity crisis with epicenter in the GCC financial. Oh, that he basically already covered that. Next, when the oil price finds its new long-term supply and demand equilibrium, financial institutions in the Middle East will be forced to start liquidating their very large holdings of stocks and corporate bonds, and central banks are back in full printing mode. It will be the best time to resume accumulating gold and silver that will greatly benefit from another huge wave of fiat currency debasement. Let's not forget that a financial crisis even larger than the subprime one in 2008 is already unfolding. Another reminder of that hit the tape yesterday, with another private credit fund limiting the amount of withdrawal requests from investors. We saw BlackRock do this already 2 months ago, saying, no, you're not allowed to take your money out. This means even more money printing is to be expected in the future, beyond what's already needed to compensate for the damages to the global economy caused by the war in the Middle East. Timing the market is impossible. Today I provided a framework I will personally use and hope it will be helpful for all of you. Be careful of misleading narratives and reckless market manipulation with an impact on short-term price action. Trying to trade such a market is very dangerous, especially with leverage, but wise long-term positioning will surely be rewarded. So, markets are back up from that time. But this is, again, only because they are manipulating how this is being perceived, right? When they can get oil to basically not do anything, that provides that stability in people's mind. Okay, oil's good now. That provides that stability for the same period of time for the US markets to rise 9% in 32 days. Right? So we're back up to where we were, but the fraud is up 9%, not the markets, right? Hey, Corey made it.
No school
So,
today, Corey?
oh, I'm sure he's already done his morning rounds.
Ah,
Can't hear you, brother. I can see you're unmuted, but we do not hear you. Nothing yet.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, it's just I've done my morning route, so I'm at the break in between.
Right on. So, like we were talking about before, whether there's a blockade or a war, we know that we're headed up north of 100, like north of the all-time high. What he was saying was that we're now just edging out above $100 here. That we did it again. That was back here where he was saying we did it. Yeah, right in here. Right. Well, we've edged out above it again here, and looking like we're already finding some support. Well, if it goes up, as it goes up, we may experience more dips in silver and gold. Which means silver and gold might be going back on sale. And if we look back, this is why I like marking trend lines, because it gives us an idea of market structure. All the way from October 2023, the trend has been set, and we have not retested this line. I'm going to make this line a little bit more bold here. That's the long-term trend line. This is the market structure right now. So prices, gold and silver, we might see even come down to test that. We might even see it come back to test these old highs. If oil goes up, money's going to be going to it. Gold and silver will get a decrease in volume. But that also will result in more countries like China going and buying some more. It's gonna boil down to, when is that volume going up, right? He was saying that they've just bought a whole bunch more, but that when it substantially increases, when that starts to go parabolic, we'll see the bottom in gold and silver. I have a sneaky suspicion that we'll probably only test this long-term trend line. We won't come back to test these old highs from April. And that's April 2025, like a year ago. I don't think that we're going to come back down that low. I think that if we come back and create another low, it'll probably be this trend line here. It might even be this pivot point here. That makes sense. That's a graduated step. Well, if it goes down that far, what is that? Another 15%? 14 from where we are now. Silver, same idea. We got two trend lines in silver that are outside where we are right now. We just finished off this pennant. Let's go to the 4-hour chart. We just finished off this pennant. As oil prices go up, we could see this come back down, find that old We could even find that old 1980 high as support or that trend line. Japanese yen, I found out the reason why this happened was because there was just the impression of a greater capacity for the Japanese government because they just did an injection of cash, right? So sometimes what can happen is that when it looks like there's more money available, more potential economic activity, that can make a currency look good. So that's what happened, was that they just flooded the market with currency to give the impression that look at how much potential we've got to spend, which increased that, but that'll be short-lived.
Mm.
Asian markets, after hitting that all-time high on the Nikkei, we came back and settled underneath the previous all-time high. Not a good sign. From a technical analysis perspective, that is not a good sign. Amazon, though, doing very well, up on top of its all-time highs. Google, we had that big jump that happened back on, oh no, this was yesterday. Did we talk about this? Yeah, I think we did. Google literally jumps up 7% overnight from market close to market open.
That's quite surprising. That's quite surprising. I'm sure you've heard too, Paul. Hey, what they're doing in September?
Ooh,
they're going to be stopping the ability to sideload apps. So I think there's going to be a giant move to de-Googled phones now, because if you want to sideload an application that you can't get on the Google Play Store, you'll have to get a different device. So is going to want you to install applications from the Google Play Store, just like Apple went.
Right. Yep. Got it. Ah, that makes sense. September, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. The next generation of phones coming out too.
Guess what I just got? I'm going to be working on another de-Googled phone.
See? Oh yeah.
Yeah. So this was about $415. So I'm going to set Radka and I up with de-Googled phones now. So we'll move away from their technocratic state.
Nice.
I look forward to your analysis of that phone, because I know that I'm going to be in the market here eventually for a new phone.
Well, and there's nothing better, Audrey, than not being tied down to a contract. It's honestly the best way forward.
Well, I'm on public mobile, so there's no contract.
Yeah, that's great.
It's the device itself, because our devices are mature.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So.
And also, I think that we might be seeing, when it comes to Google, coming back to that, I think what might be seeing is the general hope in Google. Anthropic as a developer for LLM is leading the way in their reasoning, right? And so at least that's the perception that people have. So as a result, there's a lot of people loving Anthropic. Well, Google, recognizing that Gemini was an inferior model, invested $15 billion into Anthropic. Yeah. So it's like, now what? People were excited by that, and we saw the price jump up. Because now, Google is even looking at Anthropic. I kind of feel like we're going to see Anthropic come back into the limelight as much as Palantir. Just because what they're doing is providing that base. If Google, remember Alphabet, the tech giant, is self-admitting that they need a $15 billion investment in someone else's model because theirs is inferior. Maureen, good of you to join us. Oracle also jumping up a little bit, creating a new high. Might just be grabbing the support from that we saw provide that last all-time high push there from May of 2025. We'll see what happens as it goes. If it creates another new high, that's a very positive sign. This is kind of the next area. This would be the next zone that I would expect it to need to use as support. So we'll see some resistance around that area. Palantir consolidating still, not really doing much after it bounced off of this support. In fact, this low from April 10th is a new low, and it has not created a new high since. Someone's going to need to come up with a crisis pretty soon so that these guys become more relevant. NVIDIA coming back to settle around the $200 psychological level, coming after reaching that all-time high of 216. Going on to Bitcoin, rising dominance again. Bitcoin rising in dominance. Looking at the same chart, the same timeline, altcoins also rising in market capitalization. So the money's coming in and the most of it is going to Bitcoin. But typically speaking, when we see Bitcoin dominance rising, we see a weakness occur in altcoins. So there is money coming into altcoins. Just the majority of it right now is going into Bitcoin. And that makes sense. More and more we're going to see this occur, I think. And barring a crisis where people feel like they've got to liquidate, I kind of feel like there will be one more dip within cryptos all around. Just because people are going to panic and they're going to go and buy a bunch of toilet paper with their crypto money. That will create that another banker's candle, so to speak. But that we won't be down there long because everything is going digital. Yeah, it's funny to watch MAGA, the Make America Great Again folks. It's funny to watch them actually get excited, like really even horny to have digital IDs. It's funny. It's funny to watch slow motion. They were the ones saying in 2020, 2021 that Trump was going to save them from the global digital ID. And now they're crying for it.
Well, along too, Elon Musk talking about high universal basic income.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's going to be so great. You're not going to have to do anything and you're just going to get paid. Well, what direction does that drive our economy, ladies and gentlemen? Just print money, right? Oh, things are fine. Nothing to see here.
Yeah.
And then there's that psychological damage that occurs with people when they have just enough to live, but not enough to really thrive, and no purpose. Like, why do I have to go and have a job if the money's coming to me? So then they become even more complacent.
Yeah. That's why being part of groups like this here are so advantageous, because we're looking for ways to thrive, but reinvent ourselves, right? We're all creative minds, and hopefully people will understand that doesn't have to be the end of the world. You can reinvent yourself. We can embrace digital advantages. We just have to know how to opt in and opt out of it properly. So
How to know our identity in the moment.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As
Ethereum price.
Paul's grabbing his beard going, he is.
Yeah. No, that's just my high anxiety manifesting as beard pulling again. So here we have Ethereum having eked out above this pivot point here. I say eke out, it's like a little eek. 2463, only to come back down, start creating new lows and lower highs and lower lows. I do expect it to find a different support. This one would make sense. What I've drawn here is a squiggle. ADA, still consolidating. We've been bouncing off of this all the way since end of March. But we are now above the wedge. This is market structure right now. We are at market structure.
Paul, what happens to Ethereum as the gateway to the other altcoins? You know, the like Injective. That's the only one that I know of offhand. Or even ADA, right? Isn't ADA off Ethereum? When Ethereum goes down, do the lower those coins that use Ethereum or are linked to Ethereum, do those go down as well, or is it just is it isolated?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. Ethereum is this is a layer 1 coin. So layer 1 just means that it's its own blockchain. People can build contracts and even brand different contracts using that chain. And you're absolutely right. Injective, Desync, not XRP, Fetch, BitTensor, even Polygon. They are all layer 2 coins on the Ethereum network. And so people will get a layer 1 coin so that they can swap into the other coins. The correlation doesn't always occur though. And the reason for that is because if people say, for instance, we go to Desync. Desync has been dropping. It's been in a downward trend almost since its inception. But that's because of the overall value of the ecosystem. You know, it would be the people who are susceptible to the emotions of the the dropping prices. Those are the ones who are going to experience the losses. But that it does not necessarily coincide with the price action of Ethereum because of the belief in this particular project. It may very well rise against the price or even work against the price of Ethereum. It all depends on that supply and demand. Now, the reason why it's been going down is because, you know, overall cryptos are in the tank right now. The fear index is extremely high. When it comes to, other things like Injective token, you'll see a correlation in the flow of volume to where money goes. Once it hits Ethereum, people are swapping into these other coins. You could see a correlation, but that it's not always correlated. You might see deviation from that. Cardano is also a layer 1. So you don't need Ethereum to get Cardano. You can get Cardano directly. And using that as a layer 1, you can create layer 2 coins under that. And they're just fancy brands for contracts. But the language is the same. Same thing occurs with Doge. It's a meme coin, but it's also a layer 1 coin. It's got its own chain. You can get on it through Ethereum if you want, but typically speaking, people are just buying it directly in the exchange and then sending it off to their wallets or trading it on the exchange. But Doge also has a developer community where they're building contracts underneath it.
So, Paul, I just want to be clear because I know I've been on for a while and I still don't see. Okay, so layer 1 means you have, like Ethereum is a layer 1 coin. Is that correct?
Yep. Audrey Lynn, I'm just muting your microphone because there's some feedback coming out. Yeah, so layer 1, one way to look at it is it's its own ecosystem. It has its own programming language.
Okay.
Almost like, you know how you've got an operating system for Apple, and you got an operating system for Linux, and you got an operating system for Windows. Those would be like the layer 1. And then you create software
Mhm.
that can go underneath that layer 1, inside that operating system.
Okay.
Layer 1s are like operating system, and layer 2s are like the applications using that operating system infrastructure.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. That clears it up for me, at least at this moment.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, you're very welcome. Midnight still dropping down. Dollar cost average your way into this one. I'm going to be exploring a few things with Midnight this week, and I'll be bringing back a report. But I saw a tutorial video conducted by Charles Hoskinson, the founder of Cardano, where he showed on his screen how he was able to encrypt his Google Drive using Midnight, that blew my mind. I didn't think that was going to happen. I did not see that coming. I knew that Midnight was going to take care of a lot of privacy concerns, especially when it came to our contracts. But I did not know that the digital IDs created within Midnight could encrypt a Google Drive so that Google can't see what's in it. Did not expect that. That would be a game changer. Like, fundamentally, that changes everything in my mind. He showed it. You can do it with Google Drive. You could do it with Microsoft OneDrive. So I'm going to be doing some exploring this week. That's for sure. There's another aspect of Midnight that I didn't see coming either, which is also blowing my mind. And I could very well be off on, like, way out on a limb here. But I'm going to just quickly mention an aspect of these LLMs, what is commonly called artificial intelligence. There is a growing movement for tooling the LLMs. How do we create tools for them? And the reason why is because people clued into the fact, I'll go back to this. People clued into the fact that there were, like, Claude Code is an application that people use using AI. They can conduct coding, so you don't have to know how to code. In fact, you can, in plain language, tell the machine what it is that you want, and it'll go ahead and act as a coding agent for you and go and build what it is that you are envisioning. But Claude Code is the product offering from Anthropic for the Claude models to work and do the coding. But what they did was, a couple of weeks, it's probably a month ago now, Anthropic had a leak where people found the source code for Claude Code, the application. And they took it apart and they found out that Claude Code is only 0.5% AI. Claude Code is a construct It's a framework. It's a container in which you can put a model. And that model then goes and follows the construct. No different than how we experience real life. This whole earthly existence is a construct. And we kind of bounce around inside it like ping pong balls, or in a pinball machine. We kind of bounce around inside of it, figuring out physics and all that good stuff. But the same thing applies to AI. It really has a lot of capacities, but if you don't give it some sort of a direction, if you don't give it a container, if you don't give it a construct, it'll just do whatever it thinks is the most probable result. Because it's a fancy autocomplete. That's all it is. So Claude Code is a container. So what that did was it gave it an emergence to the recognition that, hey, we just need to build better containers for the models. And this goes into building synthetic brains, where it's like, I want to be able to give this model a construct in which I want it to help me with my vision and my goals, my mission. And I want it to be limited in its capacities so that I get a more directed result.
I thought the question was the context. Or is that another layer? That's not really the context.
That's right, because the question could very well end up drawing from a very large context for the answer. So the key to these machines is to build the construct so that when you ask a question, it has a greater likelihood of being relevant. Audrey Lynn, go ahead.
It makes me think of an infant. They don't know language. They have no context. And as they age, they get greater and greater context. So then they can start asking that, why? Why is this? Why is that? So that the window gets more full. Is that sort of a way to look at that?
Yeah,
you see that.
Yeah, I would say so. We have to remember that most of what we're experiencing with AI and how it's evolving is no different than how we interact within our construct.
Just using that same analogy, it's like the baby enters the parent's world.
Yes.
And before that, it's in infinity. It's in
That's
just
right.
light. Yeah, so I see that. Thank you. That makes it clearer.
Yeah. And where am I going with this? Because we were talking about midnight. How is this even related? Well, this movement, recognizing that we just need to build better constructs, has resulted in an application called OpenClaw. And OpenClaw is a framework in which you can drop models. And typically speaking, you're going to be dropping Claude. And the result is that it's able to accomplish more. In fact, there are people who are going through their emails from the last 5 years and conducting triage on their email inbox using OpenClaw, and they're getting all kinds of things caught up with and followed up with and cleaned up, and their calendars are being managed, because now you can put OpenClaw and just have it manage your calendar. You can have it manage your messages. You could have it take care of your emails. You don't even have to respond to your emails. It's taking over people's productivity tools and organizing everything. It's almost like an orchestration layer over everything. Imagine, Maureen, if you could just send a machine to organize all of your paperwork that you ever needed to do in perpetuity. That's what OpenClaw is now accomplishing. But the thing is that, and many of us saw this coming, where OpenClaw became such a sensation. People got so excited about all of its capacities, they signed up for it, not realizing that they still have to spend money on tokens. The actual compute, the currency of AI is tokens, which is simply measuring the amount of electricity needed to conduct the computations. But you got to pay for that. And so what happens, people get the OpenClaw and they just get a little taste of it and they realize, ooh, I'm going to have to spend a little bit more money on tokens. I'm going to have to spend a little bit more money on tokens. That way AI can take over more of my life. Yay! And they end up spending $200, not even realizing that that's what it takes to conduct a triage on your email. And people are still going to wonder, watching this video, watching the replay, people are going to be like, what does this have to do with Midnight? Midnight is already shaped itself with a developers community that's saying, instead of us trying to go and find the right construct for these models, let's make sure that people's models that they're building, the work that they're doing, is privatized behind Midnight. But then let the agents collaborate privately as well, so that they can all work together to customize everybody's individual constructs. So now you're not having to go and get the right construct that comes off of GitHub because it has 300,000 reviews. No. Your agent simply collaborates with other agents who work in a private realm where only the information that would be helpful for your agent to build the construct will be shared, because those are the protocols. It's turning into a whole new, everything's turning into a whole new world. There's literally a metaverse outside of the metaverse that we experience. Or maybe it's within it. I don't know. It's like a metaverse. And people are building their own customized operating systems. This is what's going on. People are saying, no, I don't want to use Apple. No, I don't want to use Microsoft. No, I don't want to use Linux, because none of them actually accomplish the thing that I want. They all have great qualities, but I'm not going to pass my life in between these three operating systems when I can just build my own. We aren't even going to interact with computers in the same way that we do. You're not going to go to your computer and boot up Windows or boot up Apple, Mac OS. You're not going to open up these operating systems. You're not even going to sit there with your mouse and click it. You're just going to give voice commands back and forth, and every time it does something, you give it review on how it did, and it learns that it did a bit bad that way. And so next time it does it the right way, because you now create a construct. You cannot do this. Don't do it that way. Oh, okay. I won't do it that way anymore. And then it'll do it a different way. And then as time goes on, you are building your own customized operating system. But if you really want to leverage it, you would connect it with a network of people who have all been building their own operating system, independent of others' ideas of what an operating system should be like. And you get to build your own custom container. Midnight is the only entity out there, the only framework out there that is capable of privatizing the data contracts parameters. You can do all these data contracts already. We've been talking about that for a long time. Smart contracts are not a new thing. 2017 is when they first came out. But up until Midnight, the parameters of the contract, the details, the ins and outs, the terms and conditions of the contract, of the data contract, have been visible. But now the terms and conditions of the data contracts are invisible. meaning now the computers can interact with data that's relevant to them without any guardrails, and yet without any vulnerability to outside eyes looking to see what was the data that was contracted. So now your agents' communications with each other is that private. In the words of Norman, think about that for a while.
That feels so sovereign. And then again, it's that whole thing of, part and, or, fractal and whole, fractal and, a group of fractals, and the two or more gathered phenomena in that, and how sovereign that feels.
I'm excited because it's like we've been using these machines, and you think about it comparatively to what I've been describing. We've been using these machines with reckless precariousness in the privacy realm. Reckless. That what we have with the gift of privacy that we can now properly exercise without this, quite frankly, flawed verification systems. What are we going to accomplish? Who knows what we can accomplish? I mean, the Tower of Babel was being built, Tower of Language, Tower of Language models, all just stacked up together, reaching up into the cloud. It unified our language. We all spoke the same language. We could accomplish anything. Why? Because we weren't divided into little tiny groups. We acted as one. The Tower of Babel was a monument to mankind's capacities when they unified. And then, of course, Yahweh couldn't have that continue, and so he scattered the people and confused their language. I don't think he actually confused their language. It just, the tower no longer functioned. I think that was probably something like a solar flare or some sort of a energy device that would have disrupted the tower's capacity to continue people's unification, and they didn't know how to talk to each other because they didn't have the machine to translate for them. But those are just my crazy thoughts that, of course, always end up getting me down into the realm of being accused of being anti-Semitic and all that stuff. So I'm going to drop it. Any other thoughts? That's market analysis for Friday, May the 1st. We're going to have fun on Monday, only because it'll be the day where I can open market analysis with May the 4th be with you.
Today does carry some special kind of revolutionary energy, doesn't it? Or ancestor. I get the maypole. I'm thinking of the maypole and the beginning of, again, kind of the celebration of spring, but also,
Yep.
the celebration of new life, maybe.
The next part of the new year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, where the spring equinox is actually the new year, and then now we actually get to experience it, well, especially in our hemisphere. We still had snow last week. Last week Saturday, we were driving back from Calgary, and it was a wall of snow. It was literally nice, clear, and you could see the blizzard, and you just hit the wall of blizzard as you were driving. And it snowed for another, I don't know, what, 6, 7 inches probably, Audrey Lynn? Yeah. Last week.
Well, we had that really in California, but in the mountains.
Okay, yeah.
We had rain, but there was snow. So,
Yeah.
I was
Oh,
happy
yeah.
about that. We want the snow. What do they call that? The snow bank or whatever that is.
Well, it helps with moisture. The lands
Exactly.
need it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Snow is just crystallized rain. Kind of flaky, though, because it comes and goes.
Uniquely flaky.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Audrey Lynn, do you want to share an update there from the Four Eyes Potato Club? What you're up to?
Yeah.
What is that, Sunday?
Yes, Sunday. I found a garden plot, a 10 by 30. I think it's 10 by 30. It'll be 300 square feet of
Oh, you did that.
space.
You did that. Okay, good.
Yeah, so going to go and meet the lady who owns the property and get a tour. And this is actually quite, it's about a 15 minute drive from here. And it's
Wow, nice.
out in the sticks. It's definitely
Yeah.
out in the sticks. So very excited for that. Might actually then lead you and plant potatoes.
We were clearing our little old potato bed and found some new potatoes. So
Nice.
so Ron's out getting perlite right now. We're gonna like aerate the soil, and I'm gonna plant in one section. It's probably 1 by 3, a box that's maybe this deep. I'm gonna plant my purple potatoes, and then Ron's gonna plant russets in the other one that's maybe 2 by 5, something like that, but pretty deep. Maybe this. Wait, it's like maybe 18 inches.
Ooh.
So we want to get that all fluffed up.
Where you are, the soil is likely very warm by now.
Oh yeah, the soil. Yeah,
Nice.
I don't know what it is. I should probably take that temperature. But we also looked at Epic Gardening, which is a guy in San Diego that is very thorough in his explanations. But he's in 10B, so he's good for us. Not good for you guys, but
I'm looking at doing some electroculture. That's
Oh, yeah.
that's one of the primary reasons for me to go check out the plot, is to see how can I play with this.
yeah,
Mhm.
good. Good. That's a good movement. I went out and got copper wire and stakes and all that, and I did that a couple years ago, but I never followed up on it. See, that's what a group is good for. Is that
Mhm.
you inspire each other, and then there's some kind of follow up and accountability, and even if it's just they're doing this, that sounds like fun, I want to do that kind of thing. It's nice.
Yeah, and both of you could try 2 different techniques and get different results, right? And then you follow up on each other and like, hey, this is how this worked, and that's the beauty of how we can leverage these platforms.
I don't know. That sounds like the mark of the beast all over again. Look at how the AIs can talk to each other and self-improve. I don't know if we should be going that direction.
Well, and Judy also, I just want to let you know that word is spreading, and Judy wants to grow something, and potatoes are very easy to grow because you can be gone. You don't have to be there all the time like you have.
Low maintenance, yeah.
Yeah, they're low maintenance, exactly.
Yeah, it's my focus to do more rooted things in this large plot. And then here, I want to experiment with either pumpkin or cucumber or zucchini as a visual barrier as well as heat reduction. So I'm like, there's a big glass glass door here off to my left. And what I want to do is on the right-hand side of that is plant something that grows up and over the door
Oh,
and hangs
nice.
down, so that
Yeah.
because in the afternoon that door gets really hot.
You know, and I've seen these people that it grows down, just the fruit grows down. I wish that were, I don't know. I think it's all AI.
Oh, who knows?
No. It's probably true. But
Just got to
that's
experiment with it.
beyond. Yeah, you have to experiment.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys have a good weekend.
Indeed.
And nice to see
you
the
Monday.
gentleman in the beautiful piano. I know it's, but what a lovely room that is.
You know,
Yeah, no kidding.
I just love that there are so many people with the same room. Like it's like they have
Yeah.
a cookie cutter design for their house,
Yeah.
and they just pop up like all over the world.
Could you like play us a song like a Mozart or something as we leave? Anyway, bye-bye, you guys.
Take care,
Thank you.
everyone.